seconds. Actually, Marius, I've heard you say in the past that when it comes to food, technology is changing the game. Well, to tell us how he and others are rethinking our food universe, Marius is back on stage with a fantastic panel. I'm going to join him. Come on in, come on in. He's going to introduce the panel in a minute. And while he sit down, come on in, guys. Please, there's some spaces at the front. There's a lot of people wanting to listen to you. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. If you leave, you lose your chair. Si se va a Sevilla, pierde la silla. So if you go to Seville, you lose your whatever, you know. There's a lot of spaces in the first row. Please, there's another 2 there. Don't stand up. It's a most interesting panel. You snooze, you lose. Thank you. We have very intelligent audience here this afternoon. So Marius and his panel, thank you very much.
Okay, perfect. And I don't know if I better in the middle too, because...
As you wish.
No, are you? No. Okay, perfect. Okay, good afternoon again. And sorry for the time. It's a pleasure for me to introduce. Basically, we want to, in this panel, have a representative speakers about the really revolution that is playing. The really move in economics in some of the players that to start to change the food sector service. Let me a brief introduction of Clément Marty, Group Strategy Director of Carrefour. After 2 years collaborating with as a partner with Carrefour, I can say that today is probably one of the most innovative companies, not only in Spain, in Europe, that are very identified not only with digital transformation. It's very relation about the mean of innovation and food. And obviously, Clément have the big responsibility now to change in one retail and distribution company to make this video. Thank you for coming, Clément.
Thank you for inviting me.
And Maarten. Okay. Marty is co-founder and director of Anterra Capital. It's for me a pleasure that we don't talk only about Silicon Valley. We talk about Amsterdam company that obviously have a base now in Boston, but probably it's an international food and agriculture growth company here, investing in innovative companies that probably are transforming the safety, security, and efficiency and sustainable global food. Yes, correct. But when I say it's a company from Rabobank, that I'm happy because it's from Europe, because probably they have 6 months ago, you announced a fund with 125 million, no?
Yes.
To invest in food and agriculture technology. Entrepreneurs, have you listened to this? 125 million to invest, and it's a pleasure that a company that born in Europe, and so thank you very much for coming. Ralf, who maybe have already heard all of you this morning, is CEO and co-founder of Food Panda Group, one of the main plans for food delivery, with more than 40,000 restaurants around you. Yeah? And today, obviously, we have important themes about the war of food delivery, or better, thinking about the new business model opportunities around the food delivery. Thank you for coming, Ralf.
Thank you for having me.
And Danielle, the personalization of the food movement system. This is the figure, this is the face of the founder, president of Food Tank, organization created in 2013, focus, obviously, I need to explain just in 2 slides, but focus on building a global community that promotes healthy, safe, and nutritious food. She's an expert in agribusiness and sustainable uses. Thank you very much, Danielle. Well, I start with one specific question for everyone of them, and after this I have a general question, open question, a question to imagine the future of food. And first of all, I introduce your first question, Danielle. We cannot ignore it that part of the food system is agriculture, obviously, is the seed, is the start, not in the lab, in the first. Like I say, we are in a moment that the farmers today have more technology than NASA 30 years ago in a smartphone. 30 years ago, the farmers don't have this possibility. It's incredible to a farmer have this. My question in relation about the critical moment that FAO introduced us, that in the next 50 years, probably, we need to increase 70% of the agriculture to translate the possibility to eat, all of you, eat more than 10 billion of people around the world. What green innovations do you detect in agriculture and farmers in the maximum space of 30 years? The next 10 years, how you imagine the new farmer? It's an e-farmer? It's a robot farmer? It's more about talking about sustainable food that we talked about yesterday in the dinner?
Sure. First, let me thank the South Summit and Marius for inviting me. It's a real thrill and honor to be on the stage with these panelists. So your question, looking forward, how are we going to feed 10 billion people, 10, 20, 30, 50, 100 years from now, is such an interesting one. But I think the real question is how can we make better use of the food we already produce in a lot of ways. I think there are probably a lot of entrepreneurs in this room who are working on preventing food loss and food waste. We're currently wasting about 1.3 billion tons of food, or about a third to 40% of the global harvest. If we worked on really helping farmers use technology in ways to prevent post-harvest losses through better storage, through better transportation methods, very simple things like roads. If we're going to talk about technology, we have to get down to basics. And really, it's often very simple infrastructure and technologies that will help farmers the most. And then in terms of helping prevent the food that does make it to markets from getting wasted, consumers really need to be better educated about how to store food properly, about how to consume properly. I think, for many of us who grew up, in rich countries, it's very easy to waste food because it's relatively cheap. For people in poor countries, especially farmers, food is very expensive. So that's one of the first answers to your question. I also think that we need to really start listening to farmers. For the past 30 or 40 years, agricultural development has focused on really telling what rural communities in the developing world what development agencies want, what kind of technologies they want in those communities. And I think it's time to switch that and really ask farmers and communities what they need, what will help them do their jobs the best, what will help them, not only produce more crops, but also improve social equity in their communities, help them improve the quality of natural resources, help them protect biodiversity and natural resources. And along with that, I think there's a really interesting movement underway to combine high and low technologies. So by using farmers' traditional knowledge and practices and combining it with things like smartphones and information and communication technologies, and then helping innovations spread in those ways. I think one of the most exciting things that I've seen on the ground over the last several years, and just to give you some background on me, I've had this extraordinary opportunity to travel to 60-plus countries, interviewing hundreds and hundreds of farmers and really learning from them what's working on the ground and seeing how they're working with food researchers and scientists to develop, not necessarily the next greatest or best app, but simple technologies that will really help them do things like, conserve water resources or develop solar drip irrigation or other things that will really help their bottom line and improve their situation.
Okay, thank you very much, Danielle. Martin, according to our analysis, this year, we think that probably we are very likely we close with investment in food innovation, not in food tech. I think that the future of food, we need to start to talking about food innovation because food tech is just, if you don't have food tech inside your business, probably you don't have future about. It's probably very near to 15 billions this year. Probably we close with this. It's a growth of more than 200% from last year. From your perspective, like investor, and from your experience, what do you consider is the key to this rapid growth of investment in food? What do you think we are in a new barrel? You think?
So thank you, Marius, and thank you for having me, and thanks to the people at South Summit. So let me start with the numbers, actually. The 15 billion, it doesn't match up totally with what we believe. I think we will see growth for this year, but it's probably going to be high single digits. But let's compare notes afterwards. But so where did it come from? What we've seen is more at a fundamental level. If you look at technology in general, if you look at software, if you look at life sciences, if you look at material sciences, all the developments that have taken place in the past decades have basically opened up markets in the agricultural and food space. And to drill down on some examples of what we've seen on the farm, for example, you've all heard the term precision farming. And precision farming was really taken by surprise 3 years ago when Monsanto invested $1 billion by buying the Climate Corporation. That attracted a lot of investors into the industry, and that has fueled a lot of innovation on that piece of the value chain. We've seen a similar thing happening in the last mile with food delivery and food boxes. So when, again, 3 years ago, we saw the success of Instacart and other companies coming up, we also saw Rockets with quite an aggressive strategy for global domination of food delivery, which ignited other investors to also come into this space. Then on the amount invested in those segments, there is quite a lot of capital invested, of which I'm afraid that investors are going to lose. So back to your question on, is there a bubble? Yes, I believe so in the short term. If you look at precision farming, the incomes of farmers are continuing to be under stress. And I can tell you that with farmers, technology is unfortunately at the bottom of their agenda. So adoption of new technology will be difficult. And the other thing is that for farmers, there are so many different people coming up with an offering that they don't really know what to choose. So they're really looking for standards. They're looking for platforms where they can work with. And the companies that aren't succeeding in getting on those platforms, they also won't succeed in building successful businesses here. And again, to come back then to the example of the food delivery and the last mile, there we've seen a couple of examples of companies that have shown successful business models, but honestly, most of them that I've seen to date still have to prove the economics to me. But that's the short term. I truly believe that in the mid and long term, the technology will forever change how we basically produce, move, and consume food.
Okay, thank you, Martin. Clément, from the perspective of a large distribution retailer, are you continually seeking, analyzing the new habits of consumer behaviors? One of the great challenges, like Carrefour, obviously, is try to understand the new change of behavior of the consumer and how technology like big data, artificial intelligence, sensor, we know that some of this technology are for companies like Amazon or Whole Foods are exploring now. To extend, what you think about Carrefour, not only about how you introduce this technology, what kind of innovation can you predict in in the future relation about this technology? How one Carrefour had the possibility to understand better the consumer and create the way to this ultra-personalization for the customer?
Yeah, so basically the technologies you're mentioning, obviously we are working on them and working on, I would say, a lot more of technologies. The way we do it is, we are not a technology company. We are a food company and we are a customer-oriented company. So the way we look and we screen these technologies is the following. Each time we are wondering, how is it helping our customer? How is it making their life easier? Let me give you a few examples. For example, last mile. You were mentioning last mile. That's definitely a key topic. Since 9 months in Madrid, customers can order food from any of our local stores and choose among 10,000 references, including fresh, salad, meat, etc., and be delivered in 1 hour, thanks to our collaboration with startup Comprea. That's an example. That's something we do. That's something that we see the customers, or a part of the customers want. And that's not technology for technology. It's basically how can we help them. Another example, robotics. We talk a lot about robots. We've been the first retailer in Europe to introduce the Pepper robot, which has some great interaction capabilities. So basically understanding natural language, understanding emotions of the human in front of him. And this robot has been in a number of stores with great success for children, of course, but also for parents. Last example, artificial intelligence. You can find on our website dedicated to food lovers, our inspiration website, some great recipes. And here, just a button that allows you to put all the ingredients of these recipes into your basket and shop them online. So all these to explain that it's not, for the beauty of artificial intelligence. It's for the beauty of a cook looking for something new for his family, identifying something great and saying, oh, I want to try that. Okay, let's make it easy. I don't want to put the paper, start writing things down, etc., etc. And when you mention what's next and what we should expect next, I think one of the big themes is personalization. So I believe that in a pretty near future, we'll be able to help our customers prepare their shopping list, tell them, hey, by the way, you forgot this cheese, and that's necessary for the recipe you are planning to do to your mother, next weekend. Oh, by the way, there's a promotion on the washing powder you are typically using. We know that your child has a specific diet, so be aware that in what you've bought or what you are preparing to buy, these are the following ingredients or the following things to look at, so basically give you the relevant information. And by the way, we propose to deliver you next Thursday between 6 and 6:30 because we know that typically that's a time slot that's suitable to you. So to me, the whole thing in here is obviously the technology behind, but the way you can help the customer and build a relationship with them, which is stronger through higher quality services.
Okay, thank you, Clément. Ralf, a company like you that in the second quarter of 2016 delivered more than 8 billion orders, probably, increase in 66% of last year's previous. How do you imagine the sector, very aggressive of the war, the actual war of food delivery? How can we imagine you the next 2 years relation about the food delivery? What new business model probably start in the next year? And the third question, yes, in 4 minutes, you have 4 minutes. Will the urbanization that we explained imposed by traditional models?
Thanks a lot, Marius, and thanks a lot for inviting me. Thanks a lot for listening as well. I have the shortest amount of time now, so I try to speak up. So overall, let's say our experience of being involved in food delivery activities and companies and working as entrepreneurs in that sector is that the food industry is one of the fastest moving industries. It's faster evolving than any other industry if we compare to fashion and travel and many other industries. And I think what we have learned is that we need to listen and carefully consider what the consumers think and what the consumers want on a day-to-day basis. 2 years ago, also when we started the company, it would have been sufficient to scan the restaurant's menus and to allow people to order from any type of restaurant and to have a digital way of a yellow pages book, which is not sufficient anymore. Then consumers became more impatient. They wanted also to have fast delivery. So companies try to iterate and try to implement certain last mile delivery innovations. So right now we see a combination of this ordering experience and the last mile delivery experience. I think over the next 2 years, and that's what we are working on as well, it's more about controlling the supply, controlling the food quality, looking into who's preparing the food, looking into who's producing the food, looking into whether the food is healthy or not, looking into the respective ingredients. Because the newer generations, it's not us that will impact this online revolution. It's the generation of our kids and the kids of our kids. And if I look into the behavior of my kids, they're behaving in a completely different way than us. They're being more impatient. They look more into how they live. They live in a much more conscious way. They try to live in a much more healthier way. They look more into what they eat compared to when we were young. So I think we need to adapt much, much quicker to all of these developments, and hence any type of company in the food sector and also in the online food sector needs to care about convenient ordering, needs to care about last mile, needs to care about the supply, needs to care about the food quality as well. And that's exactly where we are going into as well. And I think from our perspective, we're not that afraid of this Uberization of food. Of course, transportation, mobility is a big challenge, is a big opportunity to get things delivered from one place to the other. But the important thing about food is that if one element of this value chain fails, the entire experience fails. If you have the fastest delivery and have the best restaurants on the platform, but customer still gets food poisoning, then you haven't won anything. So then the best Uber in the world and the most funding in the world won't help you. So I think what we are working on is to have an end-to-end experience in collaboration, hopefully with many other suppliers, food companies, that ensures control of the value chain from producing the food up to getting the food delivered or being eaten by a respective customer.
Thank you, Ralf. And just one question for every one of you. 1 year ago, in the same stage with another partner, I formulate this question. What do you consider is probably to be the next big thing in food in the next 5 years? Only 5 years. The next big thing that you consider. Danielle?
I mean, as the only woman on this panel, I think the next big thing in food is really investing in women farmers and making sure that they have access to the resources, inputs, and education and technologies that they need. The United Nations Food and Agriculture Organization sort of agrees with me. They've said if women farmers had the same access to resources as men, they could improve yields by anywhere from 20 to 30% and lift as many as 200 million people out of hunger. So if we're going to invest in anything over the next 5 years, I think it's women farmers, researchers, scientists, food entrepreneurs like the ones you see on the stage.
Okay, thank you. Martin?
Yeah, so I think we're going to see huge investments coming out of the life sciences industries going into food. So looking at technologies that have been applied already on human pharma, but that will have a big impact on the animal and plant breeding space. And with the effect that we will be able to, first of all, use techniques that are considered non-GMO, because obviously that's a hard point for the consumer. But more importantly, it's going to enable the banning of antibiotics in animal husbandry. It's going to remove the use of harmful chemicals in the plant production. And in general, animals and plants will be able to live more healthy due to advancements in genetic technology.
Thank you, Martin. Clément?
Yeah, I think obviously we'll see the surge of what I call high-tech food, or sometimes called super aliments. Exactly the amount of nutriments you need in a convenient form. That's for sure. But I think in parallel, we'll see, and we are seeing, the return of traditional producers. That thanks to the huge amount of information which is available to customers, the huge transparency this is allowing, basically customers tomorrow or today will be able to identify this special cheese producer living not too far from them, about his cattle, about the way he produces his cheese and why it has this very specific taste. So I think we'll have, on the one hand, high-tech elements, on the other hand, the return, and basically consumers will see, measure, share the value of traditional producers.
Okay. And Ralf?
Yeah, first of all, hopefully we see Maarten investing all of his 100 million in food and food businesses.
Sure.
But secondly, I think one of the biggest opportunities is, as I said also earlier this morning, to create transparency. Transparency for, again, who's producing the food, who's touching the food, who's basically preparing the food, who's delivering the food. Food is still something that is very blurry, where we don't have sufficient knowledge and where there's a lot of fragmentation. And I think you, Marius, showed like many different elements of what's happening in the food hemisphere. I think interconnecting all of these elements and creating like a holistic approach that connects all these different innovations and technologies. I think if we would do that, then we would have like a much more transparent and much more convenient user experience for the benefit of all of the participants of the ecosystem.
Okay, thank you, Ralf. Yes, one question more. No, more than question, just a sentence. Please, could you help me in one something very important? Continues being disruptor. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.